Yes, you gonna read a statement? I saw it on the last day, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you gonna talk about it today?
No.
I'd like to.
No.
I think it'd be great if people could read it. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you and open the Committee of the Whole September 9th, 2020 meeting and call it to order. And first order of business is the confirmation of agenda. Yes.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to remove 8.5, if I could, please.
8.5,
Yes, we'll bring
proposed
it,
bylaw. Yep.
we have an error on the report. We'll bring it back on September 16th.
Thank you. Anything else from administration to add to the agenda or amend? Anything else? If I could have a motion for confirmation of agenda.
I so move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. We have a motion to confirm the agenda. All in favor? And it is carried. We have a presentation today from Waste Management, and I'd welcome you to come forward.
I trust it's okay to remove this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good morning, members of council, administration. Thank you for having us in this morning. It's nice to see you. Feels like it's been a little while since we've all been face to face. So, my name is Chris Lemaist. With me, I have Cody Huckstead. Cody and I are going to, both participate in the discussion, so we'll be back and forth a little bit.
Didn't even see him back there. He's behaving very well today.
Yeah, he too is disguised. So yeah, we just wanted to share with you a first half update, first half of 2020. I think you have our presentation on your systems.
We do.
There's a few specific points that I may refer you to as we work through, but I'd like to jump right in. Of course, you've seen our agenda. We just really have about 10 slides here for you. I wanted to share a few observations from the first half. On slide number 2 in our deck, just a quick overview again of our team members that are actively participating in delivering services for the town of Strathmore. Cody Huckstead, of course, directly oversees the service delivery for all of the services we provide for the town. Scott Waldy is our operations manager, and Scott provides support, and he oversees our collection operations more generally in the region. I, of course, provide account management services. Tanya Hunter is our operations specialist. Tanya mans our office, and Tanya is responsible for office administration, and Tanya is a person that residents and business owners will speak with when they reach out to us here at our local office. And Rena Blacklaws and Solo Lefskowski provide communication support as needed. If I can refer you to slide number 4, here's where we're comparing and presenting the curbside waste and curbside organics data for the first half of 2020 and comparing that to the same period in prior year, which would be 2019. Of course, as we reflect over the last few months, there's been a number of changes, both in terms of work and personal routines as a result of COVID-19. Strathmore's year-to-date numbers show the waste volume up 8% versus prior year, and the organics volumes up 28% versus prior year. As a company, we see similar trends across our organizations with curbside waste and organics volumes up over prior years as people are spending more time at home.
Hello, I'm Cody Huckstead. So the page number 5, it's just showing January to June 2019 versus 2020 volumes. We got waste on the left and your organics on the right, just showing year over year, month over month. Please keep in mind with organics, obviously with our heavy rainfalls, like Chris said, more people at home. We are seeing a higher trend in waste and in organics over the year. If I can get you guys to go to page 6 and just kind of give you a compost facility update. We got kind of three slides there, 3 different pictures. We'd like to update you on our compost operation. Since we last met with you, we've made significant investments into our facility to improve operational effectiveness in our final product. We've completed all upgrades to our aeration control systems, which now completely operational. The system provides more oxygen to help support the composting process. The second photo here, if you look in it, it's our new screener. We found now it's 2 to 2.5 times more efficient and more material than our last screener. And then the last photo is our finished compost pile, which has since last week has been hauled out to a local market. So if I can get you to go to number 7. So this slide's just kind of showing a quick shot across the compost facility, just so you can kind of see the piles, the aeration equipment. As you can see, 577 metric ton has been collected from the town green cart as of January to June. 35% increase in volume compared to January of 2019. We reduced our aeration bed size and currently have eight in operation, which you can kind of see in the picture. As mentioned previously, in terms of staffing, we have 2 operators on site daily to operate and with support of other employees as needed. And now if we can go to number 8. It's just kind of showing the screener, a shot of the screener and our finished product. Here we're just kind of showing that we're removed a bottleneck in one of our processes with upgrading to this screener. So it's just mostly an update on what we've done with the compost facility. And I think I'll pass it on to Chris for this piece.
Okay, so turning to the Town of Strathmore Residents Free Compost Program. So the year-to-date, or rather in the first half, we saw residents pick up approximately 20 cubic yards of free finished compost materials. The compost material continues to be available to residents and will of course ensure there's at least 20 cubic yards available from now until the end of the season or the end of the calendar year. So just wanted to provide you an update on that process. And then lastly, turning to slide 10, just a quick reminder for the community about the importance of minimizing contamination within the Green Cart program. Keeping out non-compostable materials, of course, is key to us being able to continue to produce a high-quality finished product. This material, or this information, both the non-acceptable material list and acceptable list is, of course, available on the town's website, but a conversation around composting isn't complete without touching on the quality component of that discussion. Thank you for your time and your partnership, and we'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? I see Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Chris.
Morning.
I really appreciate you coming today. I have just a couple things. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for making compost available to our residents.
You're welcome.
It's been something that they've been asking us for a while, and we were so happy that you were able to make that agreement with David, and that people are taking advantage of it. I also would like to just ask administration if we could please put the compost contamination items online to let our public know. I know that if I went back to our original list of compostable items, and dryer lint and vacuum dirt was actually in it. So I was a little bit surprised, and I wanted to make sure that we updated that because we do not want to have contaminants. That makes it more difficult for your screening process and just more difficult to obtain the highest grade of compost available, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. Are there other reasons that contaminants in compost are bad?
Well, firstly, we want to be sure that each of the materials that is accepted in the Green Cart will compost, so it's compatible with the composting process, and it doesn't result in the need to remove non-compostable materials from the process. So again, it's all about the quality of the finished product, making sure that the product's going to meet the specifications the marketplace is looking for.
I trust that Strathmore residents want to do the right thing, and that this, is an important item that they're going to pay attention to. And then I'm also going to just ask our IT department, if I may, please, if we could please have this slide available for our public so that they can see as part of the agenda package or as part of this meeting. I was noticing that when Mr. Lemaistre was talking that they were referencing different slides and they were not being shown on the screen. Is that possible? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're finished? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Sobel.
Thank you. And thank you, Chris and Cody. I walked in the door. I think Cody said hello. I Didn't even recognize you. I apologize. So I have a couple of questions. One is in regards to the amount of waste from year to year. And I appreciate that from perhaps March, April on, I get it, but every month our waste goes up, but so does our compost. So I'm just, like, I'm a little confused as to what that's happened unless we're having a fairly substantial increase in population. And I wasn't aware that that was happening.
Yeah, so it was one of the reasons why we provided that overarching comment that, that our COO offered up in July of this year, actually during an earnings call. So in other words, a public statement, just sharing a general observation that, and I'll read it because I think it's actually, it applies in this conversation as well, is while residential wastes have declined from their peak increases, they're still elevated by mid-single digits when compared to last year. So that statement was made in July, very recently. When we think about the data here in the town of Strathmore, I think the same is true. So it's difficult, I think, from our perspectives to say definitively, what the drivers are. From our perspectives, COVID-19 and the people spending more time at home versus the workplace, we think there's a connection there. Again, I don't have any statistical data to support this, but it felt to us like we had a pretty wet May and June as well, which may well have driven an increase in yard waste versus the prior period. And maybe there's some behavioral components to it as well. Maybe people are capturing more of their organics within the green cart than they might have a year ago. Recognizing that my program's 2 years old now, if memory serves. So that's probably the most insight we can offer at this point in time. Just trying to think about some of the trends that could be driving that.
So I'm very happy to see the increase in the compost levels, of course, even if the waste is going up at the same level. But the question remains, what can we do as a community, as a municipality, to increase compost and reduce waste? And I know, that's the crux of all this is how to do that. But where are we going in the future, I guess, is where we're going to increase those numbers if that's a possibility.
Yeah, well, I think continuing the focus on education, so and Councillor Bauer spoke about that, is continuing to ensure the community has a really good understanding of which materials are acceptable within the Green Cart program, and then implementing those behaviors. That will continue to optimize the amount of diversion from the black cart or the waste stream to the Green Cart and the organics program. Again, the data suggests that may actually be happening, even though the waste is up year over year. Again, we would suggest that may be more related to the change in personal behaviors and more time at home than prior year. So it's difficult to, I think for that reason, it's difficult to make a linear comparison versus, how much of it's still, behavioral related versus a change in how people are dividing their time between home and outside of the home. I don't know if that helps. But I would come back to the education piece, is continuing to emphasize, the value of full participation within the Green Cart program. And of course, that should reduce the waste stream as a result.
Right on. I think one of the things you folks have done is agreed to provide the free compost. And the theory that I have in that is that people will be more interested in being involved in the product if they have something quote unquote free at the end of the day. When did that start, the free compost?
Cody, correct? Do you mind jumping in? I think
Free sites just started.
Is just started. Okay, but it's been available since
For
we
sale.
started the Green Cart program.
It's been available for sale, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a real strong incentive for people to perhaps be a little bit more, and I think it's a very generous program too. I know in other programs, they're very specific as to when you're picking this stuff up. And you guys have, I think, really gone above and beyond to facilitate this program, so thank you. And the only other last thing I had was in regards to the compost facility, I guess is directed, it's just a comment, Cody. I haven't heard any complaints in regards to odor, so whatever you guys are doing, I think you're doing a good job. Have you received any complaints recently? So I just think it's important for everybody watching at home, all three people, to know that, that you do accept these calls for, if there's an odor problem. And, you know, wind's an amazing thing, it changes, and sometimes we get the wind at the wrong time, going the wrong way. So, but I think whatever you're doing, it's been working. So thank you. I really appreciate that, because it's not a reputation that we enjoy having, but looks like something's been done right. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Montgomery.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, thanks. And yeah, thanks for coming. I have a question that's from a resident. It just has to do with, does the town pay per bin tipped every week, or is it a flat rate regardless of whether the residents put their bin out that week? So if they don't put their black bin out, let's say, does the
Right.
town still get billed for that tip?
Yes, it's a flat rate. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's not based on what we'd call set out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
I really appreciate your presentation. Are there any other questions? I just would conclude by saying that as more of our people stay at home, more of them are also becoming involved in urban farming. And I've heard lots of comments about opportunity to access compost from people who are purchasing even. But we'll certainly appreciate that they're no longer having to use chemical fertilizers in their yards. And that has a huge benefit overall to community. And I hope that it'll form part of that education component in the future. And really would like to thank you and Cody for your presentation this morning. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much
Thank
for
you very
coming.
much. Thank you for
Stay
having us.
safe.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next on our agenda is item 4.1, and that is our delegation. Good morning, Mr. Walker. Come right to the microphone in the middle here.
Here?
Yeah, right here. And if you're more comfortable removing your mask while you speak, feel free.
My name is Wes Walker. I've lived in Alberta most of my life, about 90%. In 2013, me and my wife moved to Surrey, BC, because of health reasons. And there I joined a club in Cloverdale, BC, of horseshoe pitching. And I got the bug. So I've been pitching ever since. And I've come back to Alberta in 2018, back to the prairies, and decided to live in Strathmore. And I had to keep pitching horseshoes because there's clubs all over Alberta that do this, are affiliated with the world, right? So I went to Mark and asked him about this. And he said, you know, we're going to need two things. He said, we have to have people to do that, and we have to have an area to put it in someplace here in Strathmore. And so this was just before COVID cut in. But I was able to go out and form a club, a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. And also, I got 16 members. So I got one of the things solved. Now, what I'm asking from Strathmore is an area to put these horseshoe courts in. This would be, I would like to have an area big enough for 8 courts, which would be 50 meters long and 60 meters wide. Wouldn't necessarily have to have all the courts to start with. If Strathmore could supply the land and maybe a few permanent courts, I've got access to portable courts that we could use until we get the rest of them in from Alberta Horseshoe Pitching Association. And they said, when you want them, we'll bring them up. So I just went from there and hope that I can do it, but I'll need the funding from Strathmore for help to do that. For a piece of the area to put these in. And of course, I'm looking for members of all kinds, because it's a very good exercise from juniors up to seniors. I'd just love to get some more of the seniors in Strathmore doing that, because they exercise at their leisure when they do this. There's nothing saying that you have to run down to the other end or you have to pitch faster. You do it at your leisure, and at least it gets everybody moving. And it's a good exercise because you're exercising your legs and your arms. Now, I think each one of you got a brochure there. You can read it from there if you want. And it tells pretty near all about what I'm talking about. These, I better say that these courts have to face north and south, wherever we put them. Because of the sun, if you're pitching in the afternoon, the sun's in your face. If you're pitching in the morning, the sun's in your face. So they have to face north and south. You'll find that any place in Alberta, that's the way it has to be. So, and take it from there. If you don't know what else you need to know.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Are there questions from council regarding this? Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker, for coming today. I have never heard of a portable court for horseshoes. Can you tell me a little bit about what that might look like and what the cost would be, please?
The cost of,
The portable courts.
the portable courts. Well, okay, I'm gonna take a shot at it because it depends who you get to do it. Now, Olds, Alberta, they just put in new courts last year. And the year before, Innisfail did. So I think you'd probably get better information from them. But one court would probably cost, if the land was already there, one court would probably cost, I'm gonna take a shot at it, probably $2,000. Because there has to be a court 40 feet from each other and walkways. Maybe not for the younger people, but the older people are unsteady if they're not standing on something solid. So we have to look after that part, And probably, I would say $2,000 for the two courts.
Okay.
For one court,
And I don't know if you know, but this council has identified recreation as being one of our priorities. So I definitely would like to support this. However, it's better from council's point of view if the membership, the nonprofit association also puts in something. They put some skin in the game. So have you considered either doing a fundraiser with your members or trying to raise some money to help aid the cost and kind of give the people that are members and that will be playing a little bit of autonomy and ownership of the courts that would be coming?
Yes. Well, I have, like I say, I can supply the portable courts, and that would be a big help if there was a few other courts that were permanent. And I can get all kinds of help from Calgary there. That's the head office for horseshoe pitching in Alberta. And they're willing to help out with anything that I need. But I have to get it started. I have to get it started, you know? And, yeah, if I was gonna start some kind of arrangement with the members to get, you know, funding of some kind, but then the COVID cut in. And you couldn't even go to the other person's house.
Yeah.
Well, what are you gonna do, you know? Your hands are tied. And so, but I'm still working on it, you know? And, like I say, I was just to Calgary here, it was Sunday, and they said, any help you need, let us know. And we will help as much as we can.
Fabulous.
Because we want to see more clubs in Alberta than we got now.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation and for the brochure. It definitely shows that people of all ages can enjoy the sport of
Oh, yeah,
horseshoes.
yeah, it's a
And-
very good exercise, I
And
know
it,
that.
kudos to you too for starting a club. Only been in Strathmore for 3 years, welcome, and having 16 members. I hope your membership continues and you're
Well,
successful.
That's it.
Thank you, Your Worship.
I didn't want to get too many members because they're kind of pulling at the bit right now.
Yeah.
To, you know, all kind of this last little while after the COVID, you know, they wanted to start, and some of them are. But again, you can't get too close to anybody, you know, so your hands are still tied for, but next spring, this winter, I'm gonna get more members, I hope. And, but I would like to have something positive about getting courts made. To tell them, yeah, we're gonna put some courts together and I got a place to put them. Even if we don't have any permanent ones, I can get portable ones. And we can get going next spring, you know? I wanna leave it for the winter, you know, so I can get more, maybe get more members and go from there.
Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Walker. I have a question for Mark, actually, please. And that's just like, have you looked at any possible sites that would fit this?
I've had some discussions with infrastructure and parks manager about some potential sites.
Okay.
One of the areas that we had possibly flagged was Lambert Park, right next to the
Happy
senior center
Gang,
and the
yeah.
Happy Gang. You know, right now, there's the area enough for three bocce courts.
Yep.
I don't see why, not knowing exactly all the specifications that are required, but I think I can imagine there'd be room enough for one at least there. That would be I thought would be a feasible option for a temporary court at this time. And but again, that was preliminary conversation pre-COVID to see if that was a possibility. Obviously, Kingsland Park would be an ideal spot, but not knowing how that's going to configure until next year. That was my initial thoughts on it.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, Mr. Walker, you have my support, so I look forward to working with you guys to make this happen. So thank you.
Pardon?
Oh, I was just saying that you have my support, so thank you very much for coming in, and I'll be supporting you.
I will be going to a meeting here in Calgary again on this, and I will take some of it back to them about the meeting that I had here, because they're gonna wanna know, because they've been going since 1970, and they've got pretty well everything, and they wanna help a new club as much as they can. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. We have another question from Councillor Sobel.
Just a comment, sir. Thank you for coming in. Can you tell me the name of your group?
Have I got any members in here?
No, the name of your group.
Oh,
Have you called any? Have you got a name for your?
no name yet.
Oh,
No.
okay.
No, no name.
Just the Strathmore Horseshoers.
Strathmore, the Strathmore horseshoe pitchers
Yeah.
right now.
Sir, I think you have some support here from council. These are not decisions that we can make in regards to where this goes, because the experts are down there. So
Oh.
you've already met Mark, and through our CAO, I hope it's advisable to put this kind of in Mark's preview to come back to council once some suggestions and costs are in place.
We could certainly make a motion to that when we, before we go into committee of the whole.
Certainly, yeah.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker, I appreciate you coming. I would just like to ask a question in terms of your membership now. Are they mostly seniors?
That's strange because I haven't got a senior in it.
Oh, really? The reason I ask that is that, and do you have nonprofit status? Nonprofit status at this time? So when you form an organization, if you have nonprofit status, you can apply for grants. And the reason that this becomes useful for your organization is that there is a grant currently called the New Horizons for Seniors program. And if a portion of your organization are seniors, there's an eligibility for a $25,000 grant. And it seems that this would be a very, very real possibility in this consideration. And when you talk to Calgary organization, they can direct you in how to get nonprofit status. And once you have nonprofit status, there are people in this community, and I'd be very happy to help, that could direct you and help you with that grant. And I think it would be very useful to the end that you're talking about in terms of, so once we have nonprofit status, once our infrastructure knows that we have a potential place, we could certainly apply for a grant. And there, I think you would have a really decent shot at it, at doing that, and that would certainly give you the impetus you needed to move forward.
Well, thanks for that. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
I will be concentrating on getting this horseshoe club going in Strathmore rather than later on there's tournaments to go to. But I'm concerned more about getting this thing started here first.
I really appreciate that.
And I'll take that back to Calgary and let them know that if there's a grant, we might be able to
Yeah.
get part of it.
Yeah, and they will be familiar with it. I bet they have applied as well. It's called New Horizons, and so it's something that I'm sure they'll be very familiar with. And like I said, I've written lots of them, and I'm very happy to help in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming today,
You bet.
and thank you for moving to Strathmore. You're a great addition to community. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, we move into section 5 of the agenda. I'm looking for a motion for the adoption of the June 10th, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Councillor Bauer.
I move that council adopt the June 10th, 2020 Committee of the Whole minutes as presented.
You've heard the motion. All in favor? And that is carried. 5.2, adoption of the June 30th Special Council Committee of the Whole. Councillor Sobel.
I move adoption of those minutes, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. And 5.3, adoption of the July 15th, 2020 Special Council Committee of the Whole. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Worship. I move that council adopt the July 15th, 2020 Special Committee of the Whole minutes as presented.
Thank you. All in favor? And 5.4, July 20th, 2020 Special Committee of the Whole. Councillor Sobel.
I move adoption of the July 22nd, 2020 Special Committee of the Whole minutes.
Is that July 20th or 22nd? Where are we? I've lost track.
I've got
20th, okay. All in favor?
I've got 22nd here.
I think it's the one up above it. This one.
20th?
Yeah, 5.4.
You're doing the 20th right now.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Hammerlock. So a vote, all in favor on the July 20th motion? Thank you, it's carried. And 5.5, adoption of the July 22nd meeting.
Oh, there we are.
Counselor Sobel.
I move adoption of the July 22nd, 2020 Special Committee of the Whole minutes as presented.
All in favor? And that is carried. At this point, if I could have a motion to move, we have, Counselor Sobel, would you like to make that motion relevant to direction to administration regarding the horseshoes project?
Certainly, Your Worship, I've CC'd Ms. Sawatsky on this. I move that administration communicate with Mr. Wes Walker in regards to his efforts to create horseshoe pits in our municipality and return to council with a report and possible costs in regards to this project.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Counselor Bauer?
I was just wondering, Councillor Sobel, would I be able to ask you to add locations to your motion?
No.
Costs and locations?
Oh,
So
well,
that administration
sure.
can bring us back both?
certainly. I was hoping that would be in the report, but
Yeah, so that's
absolutely.
a friendly amendment?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All in favor of the motion? That is carried. At this point, if I could have a motion to move into committee of the whole.
I so move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Counselor Sobel. All in favor? So we are now in committee of the whole, and that brings up item 8.1, the 14,000 Trees Initiative Project Update. And Ms. Molitor. Oh, sorry, Jim.
Madam Mayor, would it be possible to invite our manager of operations to attend this portion of the meeting as well?
Absolutely.
Ms. McCollum has the next item on the agenda.
Yes,
which is-
absolutely. Yeah, we'll just wait a minute. Thank you. Come on in, Renee. Come on. We'll just wait for Donna to come in. And, yeah. We're ready? Thank you, Ms. Molitor.
Okay. Good morning, Your Worship. I'm here this morning to present information pertaining to the 14,000 trees project to date. In February 2020, Council directed administration to begin work on project planning for the 14,000 tree initiative. At the July 22nd Council meeting, Councillor Montgomery indicated intent to create campaign for the 14,000 tree initiative to rally community support and volunteers to plant 14,000 trees and shrubs throughout the community on private or public land using as large a volunteer base as possible. Council directed administration to return with a project update to Committee of the Whole for September 9th, 2020. And I just click down. There we go. Trees are an important part of Strathmore's identity. From the initial growth of an orchard that produced an impressive array of fruit, an oasis-like canopy now grows throughout our community. Strathmore has pursued important urban forestry initiatives in recent years. The Birth Forest has been initiated and expanded. The Heritage Tree Project recognizes notable trees. Recent approval of the Tree Protection Bylaw ensures the care of public trees for generations, and landscaping around new town facilities and feature trees prominently in their designs. Council directed administration to develop a plan to reach an ambitious target for Strathmore of 14,000 new trees to recognize each resident in our community. We aim to achieve this goal through volunteer programs, development projects, and community contributions. The proposal provides information on this target and an alternative target for discussion. Recent relative tree projects which affect trees and tree planting within Strathmore and in relation to the 14,000 tree initiative include the creation of the eligible trees and eligible shrubs for Strathmore. This was created in 2018 along with a quick guide. The Tree Protection Bylaw, Bylaw 1918, which was passed on January 22nd of 2020. The recent low-density land use consolidation, this is still being passed through council, but proposes an increase of the tree requirements for low-density parcels, and an increase of from 1 tree to 2 trees on internal parcels and from 2 to 3 on corner parcels. There's also a project underway through infrastructure, updating the road cross sections Requirements within town of Strathmore, which at the direction of council may include an increased requirement for trees and street and boulevard trees in that as well. And then we're also tracking through development services the cumulative number of trees planted under each development approval. So currently to date, we have 368 trees approved under development permits within 2020. Then the next one here we have is the TD Green Space Planting Grant through the Arbor Day Foundation, which delegates the planting of 150 larger sized trees and is a program that Donna will actually speak about as well. Through consultation with operations, it is also the understanding of administration that a selection of sites are under examination with intent to plant trees in larger groups in order to reduce planting and maintenance costs. And then we have some proposed related projects. So future proposed projects in relation to the 14,000 tree initiative may include the creation of a GIS public tree database. This would involve collaboration between operations, development services, and GIS with the goal to catalog all the public trees within Strathmore and create a GIS data layer for Strathmore's public urban forest. This would include cataloging things such as the species, condition of the trees, locations of the trees, and this would also help operations in maintenance as well. The possibility for creation of internal policies. There's also things like such as consideration and direction of predetermined percentage of trees to possibly be included within all municipal reserve lands under future proposed area structure plans. Currently, we have through the MGA, we ask for up to 10% of MR land under area structure plans, but we don't have any regulations surrounding if it has to include trees or any kind of planting or shrubs on it. So a lot of times we do get fields of grass that are kind of open to possible school sites or that kind of thing. So there might be opportunity to have that in part of our policies as well, to request trees. And then we have additional project implementation that may include the utilization of large-scale tree purchasing power of the town with possible incentives such as discounts on trees for residential planting in order to encourage further tree planting on private property. Possibilities also potentially exist for corporate sponsorships and maybe another avenue to examine as in achieving the goal of 14,000 trees and shrubs. For project participation, so we currently estimate that Strathmore has an urban forest of about 10,000 trees, with the town of Strathmore planting approximately 100 trees per year at a cost of approximately $182 per tree on average, and approximately an additional $2,000 per tree is estimated for watering and care during the crucial 4 years after planting. As of the 2018 census, a total of 5,989 dwellings existed in Strathmore, including vacant bare land and under construction properties, with approximately 4,100 of those total dwellings with a yard. In order to achieve the target of 14,000 new trees in Strathmore, a public-private corporation would be paramount. Even with a 10-year target, 1,400 new trees would be required each year. Private support for half of this goal of 700 trees would require approximately 15% of participation among Strathmore households each year, assuming 1 tree per household. Alternatively, a request of each dwelling to plant 2 additional trees of shrubs, and at 4,100 dwellings, this would equate to approximately 8,200 new trees and shrubs, but that would require 100% support. And would the town would then provide the additional trees to make up the 14,000 over the 10-year target. Both options in this case would require 100% support through the life cycle of the project. And then, so we have an alternative target to possibly discuss. Here we have, over the next 5 years, Strathmore could achieve the target of a forest with a tree for every resident in our community by increasing the target, this target is still ambitious, representing a growth of 40% over our current estimated canopy. So the idea would be to bring our forest up to 14,000 as a first goal. And then perhaps an additional goal after that's been met would be to continue the program and then keep planting to achieve a higher target. The proposal presents achievable estimates for public participation. With a target of 400 trees planted by 320 households per year, we would see about 37% of Strathmore households with yards participating in the initiative. This target also continues the pace of our 2020 planting schedule. This includes Strathmore, town of Strathmore planting and as well as development permit planting. The town would need to commit to a continued pace of about 400 trees per year to meet the objective. Some considerations. We did look at the required land area that it would take to plant 14,000 new trees. If we were going to plant them all in one place, it would take 2 quarter sections, which is approximately 192 acres of land, just to have the spacing. This is for full-size trees. So we kind of looked at what is the land mass? What does this look at? What does it look like in the town? And then also just to equate that to something relative, it is approximately 36 times the size of Kinsman Lake water body. So that, just for, I guess, perspective of how many trees that actually is in a forest. This number is based upon trees at maturity. The figures would obviously be lower if we're utilizing shrubs as well or smaller sized trees. We just kind of used an average based on discussions with operations. And building the tree inventory and the resources will take time to accomplish. We would have to establish agreements with and arrange for nurseries to establish their supply in order to provide us the number of trees, and determining how best to educate and involve the public in the program as well. The operations department is currently working with 18 seasonal staff and have been operating at this staff limit for several years. And additional staff would be required in order to maintain the increase in landscaping if we're planting these trees, a number of them on publicly maintained lands. So in conclusion, reframing the target of the 14,000 tree initiative from an entirely new planting to a total forest estimate still provides an ambitious, meaningful goal. The administration supports this initiative and suggests we work our way to obtaining 14,000 trees within the town of Strathmore on public and private land, including council encouragement of residents and business owners to plant additional trees or replacements of trees that they have or will be removing. A total forest estimate will also provide a goal that can be met in a shorter deadline of 5 years without risk of budget stress or fatiguing the public participation. Administration also recommends maintenance and cataloging of existing public trees through the town GIS program prior to planting additional trees on public lands, with assessment of the need for more public trees in each budget year. Due to financial constraints, administration recommends planting minimal trees at this time on public lands. At this time, administration is seeking council direction on setting project expectations and project timelines with the intent of launching the 14,000 tree initiative project. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for that thorough report. Questions from councilors? Councilor Montgomery.
Good morning, Renee. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for all of your work on this. This is it's very comprehensive, and it's great. I'm really impressed. So thank you very much. And you know, and I even like the idea of the 14,000 tree forest. I think that's a great goal as well. And I guess, so a question for administration would be, would the best way to move this forward be to have a council committee of some sort involving the public?
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
The best way to move this forward would be, first of all, bring it through budget and identify the funds for it. Because we are struggling with funding, as you know, and identify the funds that we have forward, and then we can develop the initiative once we know what our budget is.
So this would become an item on our budget discussion?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, that sounds good to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Renee. That's a really good report. I love the idea of slowly going towards the goal of having 14,000 trees in our municipality. It certainly it certainly beats planting 14,000 trees at cost of $10 million. So this is more reasonable, and I think it's a complicated thing because there's a lot of variables to this. There's the private trees, there's public trees, and of course there's the MR space that there's plans in place and coming in the future that will ensure additional trees anyway. I just love the idea of going from 1 to 2 trees on new bills as well. One question I have is how are we counting trees on private property in our municipality?
Through the chair, we're not currently counting trees on private property. We were just looking, if you're speaking to the GIS layer, we were looking at cataloging the public trees, not the private trees.
But for the 14,000, we would be counting private as well.
We would be counting private. That would be something we could either do a whole other layer of GIS, or that would be something where we might have to have public participation to say, I have 10 trees in my yard and, we'd like them cataloged towards this project. Maybe that's an inventory that we could actually do through public survey.
Yeah, because it'd be interesting to know what our inventory, I mean, we may be there now. I've got 20 trees in my backyard. I'm just wondering what that number would be. And I don't think we've ever gone down that road, have we?
I don't think we have that information
Okay.
currently. With the estimate was just, we estimated to have about 10,000 trees based on aerial photos, based on
Gotcha.
information
Oh.
that we do currently have, based on other similar municipalities who have cataloged their trees.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how we got to the 10,000 number.
Excellent.
So that's just a ballpark at this point, but we could actually find that out. I think public survey would probably be the best way to do it, just to say, how many trees do you currently have in your yard? Send in the number and let us know, because if we tallied them up, I believe we probably have a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much.
Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for your presentation, Renee. I was just wondering if I could ask about the proposed locations that you have in this report. Is this something that you'd like feedback on, or is this something that we'll talk about in the future?
I believe, through the chair, I believe this is something to talk about in the future. We were looking at, so in discussions with development services and operations, we were talking about where we would be able to possibly plant trees. There are a few other considerations, things like for maintenance, for operations, to plant, like I said, larger groups of trees together rather than having small group here and a small group there, so they have to travel to maintain them. Maybe having some larger groups, making sure though for development services, things like Sept head considerations, making sure that there are visibility through those trees, because we don't want to also plant a large forest of trees that is impermeable to the eye. So we don't want to basically create screens of trees or large forested areas as well. There's a lot of kind of opportunity to plant in different areas, maybe in groups, smaller groups of 15, 20, even 50 trees, depending on how large they're going to grow and the species. So that's something we have been talking about with operations, and just places to plant them, either in public places or having developers possibly plant them in parks, in their proposals, having people who may want to come forward and say, oh, I've planted 2 to 5 new trees this summer, let's put it on a record and actually just catalog those. So there are a lot of opportunities to actually get to the number of 14,000 trees. And I believe actually having homeowners, there are probably a lot of homeowners that are out here that already have planted trees in the last couple of years that have said, I've increased the tree density on my own property. And maybe just having that kind of keeping track of that record. One idea that we did come up with was possibly having, some sort of a plaque at the new town hall that actually was just kind of a running, your trees have been, your name is maybe on the plaque and you've contributed X number of trees, and when we get to 14,000, we actually have a ceremony for that with the mayor, or I'm not sure if that would be possible, but something like that would be like, yes, we've achieved this and here's how we've done it, and maybe the very last tree has like a ribbon cutting, or I don't know if that's just an idea to have as well.
Well, thank you, Renee. I did look at the proposed locations, and the one thing that, one question that I had was really that each one of these community groups that use this area would be consulted, because if you were to put trees down the location where you call the Lions Canal, I'm thinking you're referencing the canal, the Lions Bridge location. That is heavily used by the Strathmore Disc Club, and planting a large number of trees may impact,
It's the
you
wrong
know-
one, Councillor Rock.
Pardon me?
That's not the one, I think.
Oh, it's not?
I don't think so.
Okay,
This
I
is-
thought it was over in Park Lane.
That's the next.
Yeah, my apologies through the chair. This is, it's tied into this project through
went
the
too far
TD
forward.
Arbor grant. Yes, sorry, that's why.
Okay, that's why my question doesn't make sense. I'm so sorry, I flipped too many pages.
In the
Okay.
14,000 tree report, we haven't suggested any sites as of yet. We're still at the very preliminary, trying to figure out how exactly we want the project to move forward and the different components coming together. It's more higher level, like a higher arching policy.
Thank you for clarification.
Project right now. For the TD Arbor grant, I do believe that is, there are some locations that have
And
been
you don't have
determined,
to
and
speak
you'll
to that
hear
right now.
about that.
I did go into Calgary to a number of different forest locations, and some have been placed on almost a grid system, which was really cool for photos, for photographers, because the trees are planted almost in a linear fashion, and you can see in various points when you're in the forest, nothing to impede your view. It's just trees, like 20, 30, 40 trees planted about 4 feet up, from each other, and for as far as the eye can see. And so I would love to see something like that, a very deliberate type of forest that isn't as haphazard, but that becomes almost a focal point for our community, and is a place where people can go for photos and to enjoy serenity of, being with a tree, and just really enhance our community. Thank you very much, Renee. Thank you,
Thank you.
Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. So my question, I guess, well, it's for administration, but besides this possible TD grant planting opportunity, is there any other opportunities where volunteers could help plant trees for the town this year? Like, is the town planning on planting any more trees, and then could we get volunteers to assist with that?
This year, no.
Okay.
Aside from the TD Arbor grants, the only ones we're planting are those ones.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Renee. I just have a question with regards to page 6 of your report on the breakdown of costs. So am I to understand that that would be the cost of a single adult tree in 1 year?
The cost breakdown through the chair, I believe I'll let Donna speak to that, the exact number breakdown.
Thank you.
There is a cost for planting, and then there is a cost for maintenance over a 5-year period.
Well, maybe we can just leave that for your presentation too.
Sure, you
And
can ask me now.
yeah, no, it's okay. It's all, trees are trees, right?
They're all the same cost, yes.
Ms. Molitor, this is an extraordinary report, and I really appreciate the work that you've put into it. It will really inform council going forward
Thank
for a
you.
long time. Thank you very much. We are on 8.2, TD Green Space. Thank you very much, Ms. McCollum.
Good morning. I don't have a pretty report like Renee's. I'm just going to talk about mine. So this report is to update you on the TD Green Space Planting Grant. The town of Strathmore was awarded the TD Green Space Planting Grant through the Arbor Day Foundation. We received 22,865 Canadian dollars to plant 150 larger sized trees. The grant is for 24,400, but the funds were allocated in US dollars, and due to the exchange rate, the town received a slightly lesser amount. On June 30th, 2020, council endorsed the project by amending the 2020 three-year operating budget in the amount of the 24,400 and further. Some overview of the grant requirements. So the project is to be completed by November 30th. We need to plant and maintain a minimum of 150 larger sized trees. We need to manage and educate 75 plus volunteers on tree planting care and maintenance best practices. and allow for participation by the TD Bank employees and profile and engagement. We also need to provide or ensure 2 years of maintenance and care for the trees to ensure the healthy establishment. And we need to promote the event using media in the local area in coordination with Arbor Day Foundation and TD Bank, and complete a final project report within 10 business days. With the grant information that I received, they send a package with the media requirements in it, and also with the final report, which we received as well. So, what I had received was a memorandum from council on June 30th, where there was 3 locations proposed. I just was notified recently that we only applied for 1 location. And so I've been in contact with the Arbor Day Foundation as I'm going to propose these 3 locations that I have included in the report. So one being Lions Canal, and I have been in contact with the Lions Club and also with the disc golf people about planting trees in there, Lorraine. The other location was east of the Kinsman Ball Diamond. There's a bunch of ash trees there, and I don't know if you've noticed in town, this winter was really hard on a lot of our trees, especially the junipers, and the ash trees really suffered. There's an ash bug that we've got in there, so it's killed off a number of our ash trees in there. So that line along the east end of the Kinsman Ball Diamond is predominantly ash trees. So I would like to, that's one of the reasons I proposed that location. And then Strathmore Lakes. So one thing I also was notified about from the Arbor Day Foundation is that part of the initiative is to plant in a, what do they call it? Sorry, give me 1 second here. It's a low income to moderate income area, and also needs to address the urban heat island effect. So I'm not sure Strathmore Lakes will be the ideal location because it isn't really a low to moderate income area. However, it could meet the urban heat island effect. It would also help us with the winds from the north there that provide a bit of a shelter belt. So those are the 3 locations I am proposing, and I haven't heard back from Arbor Day. I've been calling them constantly for the last 2 days, and we've been playing phone tag, so I haven't really got the approval for the locations, but I am working on it. And so in the last pages here are the planting and maintenance costs. So this is obviously a breakdown just for us to prepare a site. This is simple preparation, which would basically be taking our skid steer with an auger, drilling the holes. The volunteers come along, put the plant inside the tree, inside the hole, cover it up with the dirt and mulch it. We teach them how to make a well, and then we come along with our water trucks and water it. Very simple, and that's why these sites were picked, was for the simplicity of the planting. One of the locations that was proposed was the Center Street location, and that being a natural area, we actually have absolutely no idea what the lay of the land is there, what the soil conditions are. To do that, I would be probably looking at around $5,000 to $7,000 just in site prep, is what we're guessing, just by cutting the grass and getting the area ready for planting. So that's why I eliminated it from this site. The other locations that were proposed was Town Hall. We can't go into Town Hall because it is a construction site. So I've eliminated that site as well. And that was pretty much it that I had in there.
Thank you very much, Donna. Are there any questions from council regarding this? I'll repeat my
absolutely.
question.
Yeah, okay.
So I was looking at Renee's report,
Mm-hmm.
and where she talks about the breakdown of the costs at around $730. Is that per tree per year? Or is that just on the establishment of the tree?
Just
and-
establishment.
Of the first year?
Yes, yeah. So basically, the first year, per tree, so the site prep is around $14.46 per
Yeah,
tree.
yeah.
The planting is about $182.28 per tree. That's just literally putting the tree in the soil and amending the soil with the mulch on top of it. And then the watering, fertilizing, and pruning is about $493.70 per tree.
Right.
That's the maintenance of it
Yep. And so then,
per year.
Per year?
Per year.
And so then, per tree per year?
Correct.
So we got a $23,000 grant that's going to cost us $110,000?
Yes.
Yes.
Your worship, I think that number, if you look at the last page of the report, I believe that number is like 403,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for 5 years.
That's for the 5 years, total
Yes.
maintenance for 5 years.
That's co-maintenance for 5 years.
Yeah, that's, well, that's.
What
like-
page
that's
is that
the
on?
plan-
I'm
That's
sorry.
the very last page, is page 4.
Of your report?
Of 5,
Page
correct.
76 of the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right, I did see that.
And
yeah.
the 403,000 is the
Yeah.
site prep, the planting, and the maintenance of the tree.
So, I'm glad we got 150 trees, but I honestly never dreamed that it would cost us $150,000 or $403,000 over 4 years.
Yeah. That's labor, the
I don't
trucks.
even know how this fits into our budgeting in this time and age. But I really appreciate the breakdown, and this is a whole new consideration for council now, because that $100,000, we know that every $100,000 equates to 1% on our taxes, and it's a consideration, I guess, for budget coming up. I don't even know what direction to take at this point, administration. I don't know if you could, if you even can comment on it. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Sobel, I have you there, I'm sorry.
Thanks, no worries. I'm just going to follow up with that because that number just blew me right out of the water, the 403,000. I just want to confirm, is it, so we got 2-year watering, fertilizing, and 3-year watering, fertilizing, so
Yes. The reason I
that
did.
combines, so it's 5 years.
It's 5 years, and I did 2 years because that's a requirement of the grant, is 2 years. Just
Gotcha.
so I broke it down into the 2, and then in order to establish an urban tree, you should do it for 5, you should maintain it for 5 years.
Right. So, so we, on average, we plant 100 trees per year. That's in our,
Correct, yes.
not, probably
On
not
average.
policy, but our regular planting. Have we planted 100 trees this year?
No, that's gonna be part of this grant is what we're gonna be using as capturing our tree planting this year. We've planted no trees this year.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Administration.
Through you, Madam Chair. This could be part of the budget deliberations. We have a deadline here of this grant in November, and we hope to have the budget to council. The first draft, I believe, is September 30th, and then we want to have it finalized by the end of October. So the timeline is working out good. And if I could, through you, Madam Chair, ask one question. Donna, have you taken into consideration, if you lose any trees, the cost of replacement for that tree in your estimates here?
No, that's not losing the trees.
Yeah.
There's an extra cost for that as well. If you lose a tree, depending on the age of that tree, the removal, there's obviously quite a bit of an extra cost on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Jim. Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm afraid, Doug, or Mr. Legore, I'm not sure that the timing is good, and Donna, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. To get this all done by November 30th means we have to start working on this
Now.
pretty much right now. So we can't wait to determine whether we can do it this year or not. And if you're looking at the cost for this first year, the cost would be probably in the range of just approximately $100,000. So you're looking at watering at about 75 for 1 year. Well, actually, in 2020, you probably wouldn't be watering for very long anyhow.
No, basically we water till around October 31st is when we stop.
The problem that I see is that we can probably do it in this year's budget fairly cheaply. However, we are then committing ourselves to another 4 or 5 years of these expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you. So I was contemplating sending this money back and bringing a motion to cancel this program. I just, it's just, the number is so overwhelming. But I suppose there is a way to mitigate this by reducing our tree planting for 2021 and possibly 2022 as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, for the 4 years, literally. Would take up all the budget.
Well, if we're doing 100 a year anyway, this is a year and a half's worth of trees, so probably until 2023. So if that could be accepted by administration as a way forward, I would reluctantly go along with this.
Administration.
Through you, Madam Chair, we're at council's direction. If that is the direction of council, we will implement as.
So at this point, we are in committee of the whole, so just give council some time to think about this and consider it, and I'm sorry if there's a delay. I really appreciate the work that you've done and the information that you brought to council. I was watching a Calgary City Council meeting recently, and they were talking about looking at 2030 water flow rates and talking about how they were going to face their future in terms of trees and other resources because of they know that by 2030 they will be having severe water restrictions. That was the term that Mayor Nenshi used, severe water restrictions. So that's also a mindfulness going forward that I'm sure you're very much aware of.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Yeah. And we are entirely tied into that process. So.
Well, this is why it's important when we are looking at planting trees that we look at native species as much as possible. A lot of the trees that are in Alberta are brought in from other countries, a lot from Japan, not have the same climate that we have.
Yeah.
So it's important that we do look at native stands as opposed to planting the high maintenance, high water type of trees.
Back to Carriganas.
Yeah.
I really appreciate these reports from both of you, and just well done, and thank you for bringing that
thank you.
mindfulness, and Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much, Donna. I think it's important to mention that when I applied for this grant, it was as a result of discussions with our CAO, not Mr. Legore, but the person previously, who had told me that the town was purchasing between 150 to 200 trees this year, and we were going to be using some of those trees in the Center Street Park area. So when I applied for this grant, it was with the idea that it would be to help purchase trees we were already going to be purchasing to go in a place that we were already going to be putting trees and fixing up. So while I can appreciate that there are obviously budget implications, this information, I guess, is comes as a surprise based on conversations that I've had with the previous CAO. Thank you. But thank you for your work on it, though.
Yes.
I really appreciate the presentation.
welcome.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. And I also just want to say that the kudos that come your way through Communities in Bloom and from the population at large because of your presentations has been rife and just much appreciated.
Good, thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
That brings us to 8.3. Ms. Molitor, thank you. Municipal Development Plan update. If I could just make a note to council, this is, Ms. Molitor, am I right in assuming that this is just for council's consideration and for council to move forward with the survey once you're finished presenting to us today?
Through the chair, that's correct.
All right, thank you so
I'm just
much.
gonna take this off just because
Yeah.
it's easier to talk. I'll put this here too. There we go. Okay, good morning again. I would also like to present an update to council on the municipal development plan project. Administration has been previously tasked with updating the municipal development plan for the town of Strathmore. Key workshops and public consultation to date include the Strathmore Strategic Economic Plan, the Town of Strathmore SWOT Analysis and Review of Emerging Opportunities in Strathmore, the Michael von Hausen Downtown and Highway Workshops held last fall, and the Municipal Development Plan Public Engagement Project and Municipal Development Plan Survey through public engagement that was previously done as well. The current MDP was adopted in April of 2014, and the previous MDP vision was founded on 4 core values: the history, where the town has come from, and to create the place it is to today. Space was the second one, an emphasis on parks, open space, wetlands, and other assets that give the town a sense of openness and complementary to the surrounding agricultural landscape. Family was number 3, the importance of family in the town. And number 4 was recreation, incorporating amenities that promote activity and healthy lifestyles. Aligning with the community vision and core values, the MDP should help future planning decisions by asking some key questions such as, what type of housing do current and future residents need? Where should new development be located and what form should it take? How can we create more local jobs? How can we create quality public spaces that reflect the town's identity and are safe and comfortable and accessible to citizens of all ages and abilities? So based on the feedback that we did receive through the previous consultations and public engagement, administration has come up with a number of key guiding principles. These are proposed. So we were looking at, and I can go into more detail on each one if you'd like, but we're looking at these top 14, and I would like council to select the top 5 instead of 4 for this MDP, so we have a vision and a direction to move in. So the ones that we have come up with are to provide, and these are in no particular order whatsoever, but to provide a family-focused, people-first community, to promote the sense of community, to provide a range of housing opportunities. This would be to build vibrant, attractive, and safe neighborhoods, so this also ties in with complete communities. Encourage and promote diversification of the local economy and sustainable economy. To promote the town amenities is another. To encourage protection of local history and to promote tourism within town. Land use compatibility is another one that we were looking at. Foster cooperative relationships with the surrounding region. Encourage revitalization, creating a town attractive to businesses. Encourage transportation development. Encourage sustainability initiatives. Identify and protect environmentally sensitive areas. To encourage smart growth. Sorry, this is a list. To establish market a unique identity. So these are the key guiding principles that we've come up with to date. We also would be gladly or happy to accept feedback if there are other areas that we maybe perhaps have missed in this. And like I said, I can expand on each of these if you do have questions. Proposed areas of focus. So these are more generalized rather than being key guiding principles. These are the areas of focus that we're looking at focusing on within the MDP itself. So obviously we would like to keep the document as readable as possible, but it is a lot of information to collect within one document. So these are the topics, the areas of focus that we've identified as administration that are important to have within the document. I won't go through and read all of these ones. Administration has drafted an incomprehensive list of areas of focus resulting from the key guiding principles, which the municipal development plan aims to encompass. Current areas of proposed focus may include the following as shown on the slide. with the inclusion of further areas of focus gladly accepted for research by administration. Administration also wishes to point out the changing landscape of COVID and how this may have impacted the feedback that we did receive from the municipal development plan research to date. Updated priorities, information, and public engagement may be required at this time. To elaborate on that, we did hear a lot of feedback on transportation and having public transportation. Perhaps that may not be the goal now with COVID in our landscape, just as an example. Administration would like to request direction from council to identify the top 5 key guiding principles, which will guide the proposed areas of focus and determine core values for the MDP, ultimately informing the MDP through, and we would like to do that through a follow-up survey of council. An email link will be sent out following presentation at Committee of the Whole, or after this meeting. Please complete the online survey prior to September 16th. Will be used to inform the next steps of municipal development plan project to ensure administration encompasses the vision council wishes to achieve. Just to mention, it is actually just one question saying, please check the 5 boxes of your top 5 choices. That's going to be used to inform our decision, and we can definitely come back and give you an update on that. Based on the direction received, I didn't have a slide for that one. Based on the direction received, administration would actually like to return to the November Committee of the Whole meeting to establish a more specific overview of timelines and outline project planning for the municipal development plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, Renee, are there any questions? Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Renee. Really good report. As I read this and read the principles, what really struck me was how I was going to pick out 5 of these. And it's not going to be an easy task, I can guarantee you, because I'm very much in favor of the vast majority of these. So my question, I guess, is why have we picked 5, or is that just something that you folks can work with? Is it not possible to expand that list?
Through the
As
chair,
guiding principles.
It is possible to expand the list. I believe all of these principles should be included in some capacity. Just the previous MDP had selected 4 as their core values, and that's kind of what we're looking for. In this case, we chose 5. We can definitely choose more. I mean, we could say here's our top 10 core values. I think we get to a point where it might be a little hard to, I guess, have a long list. But I do believe all of these things will be incorporated into the MDP in one fashion or another. It's just what do we want? I guess what do we want to focus on? What is our vision and our direction? So, for instance, if you were to say and I'll just throw out a number 3 and number 6 are top priorities, then those would be the main focuses of the MDP. Then we would actually still focus on all the other ones. It's just maybe not in such a high capacity.
Works for me, thank you. Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions of Renee at this point? There are none. Thank you very, very much for your report. Council will homework,
And
hopefully without reminders.
Oh, I apologize. I will have one of the senior leadership team send it out, or I will send it out myself after this meeting.
Thank you so much, Renee. And that brings us to policy 1107, public participation policy. I have to find it in my, and that's Erica. Yes,
Thank you, Your Worship. Before you have a draft policy of the public participation policy. So administration is currently undertaking several public participation initiatives to ensure that the voice of residents and businesses and all stakeholders are considered in decision making. However, this policy formalizes that process and brings us in line with new legislation in the MGA that mandates that we have this policy. The desire of administration is to bring this to the September 16th regular council meeting for adoption, so we welcome any feedback or input you have at this time. Thank you.
Are there any questions from council? Councillor Sobel.
Just a comment, I guess. When I look back and think of the increase in public consultation that we've headed towards over the last number of years, you know, it's just phenomenal. And a really good example, a recent one, is the conversion therapy bylaw that's proposed and the efforts that administration is taking in regards to public consultation, which is, it's just outstanding, the job you guys are doing. So, you know, this is mandated by the MGA and certainly puts it into some assurance that we're going to continue doing that in the future. It's a great policy. Thank you.
And Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Your Worship. I also agree with Councillor Sobel. I think that this is a great step forward. I think that the municipal government, you know, supporting municipalities with public participation is something that the public has been asking for a long time. And now that it's going to be mandated, it'll just help communities, unlike Strathmore, who may not be asking their residents for their participation, to become more involved. And I mean, that's the greatest thing about government, is that everyone has a say and everyone has a voice. And so it makes me very excited about it. The one thing I just would like to ask, please, Erica, or to administration, is whether or not this particular public participation policy could also include how members of our public could get involved in council meetings. Is that something that this policy could also include, or is it separate to this? Because I haven't really seen a lot in our policies directing the public to how they can have more of a voice at our council's meetings.
If you can.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Erica?
Through the chair, I'll defer this question to Jennifer Swatsky, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Am I on? I'm not sure. We definitely can. So we have the public participation tools kind of in section 5 of the policy. We can definitely list how the public can participate in council meetings in that section.
Thank you so much.
I noted in 5.1.3 that you do have capacity to form official recommendation to council, and possibly could form an addendum to that. I appreciated that. The other thing that I think that this town does better than almost every other municipality that I've seen is the attempt in almost every survey process to do that report card piece. And it definitely came forward in the recreation master plan. And I think that we've talked about putting that measurement component in throughout our processes of reporting back to community in terms of reporting how well we think we do in a measurement, both qualitative and quantitative capacity. So I really appreciate this, and we'll look forward to it coming forward. Thank you, Erica. And that brings us to, so as a reminder, we have removed 8.5 from the agenda. It'll be coming back at our next meeting. And that moves us to 8.6, Municipal Stimulus Program, MSI grant applications. And I believe Ms. Gregory is presenting today. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you. Feel free to take your mask off if it's more comfortable for you to present. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just waiting for Ethan.
Okay.
But we can get started.
You can wait for him if you want. There's no
Okay,
question. Yep, no problem.
It won't be long.
We're just taking a brief break.
Oh, okay.
so we can move ahead with item 8.6, municipal stimulus program. And thank you both for coming.
Your Worship, Council, we're here today to ask that Council authorize a grant application to be made to the Province of Alberta to utilize the Municipal Stimulus Program grant funding for capital projects and to include projects identified as priority projects within Schedule A. So we have been given a grant of approximately $1.6 million for capital spending. And yeah, if you have any questions or want to go through any of the projects on Schedule A, ask away.
Are there any questions from council relevant to the report presented here today? Councillor Sobel?
Thank you. So my one question was in regards to Ridge Road storm sewer. Just want to get my thoughts here. So that's a planned project for 21-22. That 475 would not complete the project itself that we have planned for Ridge Road, correct?
Oh, sorry.
So to clarify, so this would be part one of a three-part project.
Right.
It's to get drainage in the lower part of the downtown area, so like 5th Ave, 6th Ave. So what we need is Ridge Road to be completed and then 4th Street to be completed, and then we can go into the 5th Ave project. So this would be Ridge Road from Wheatland Trail to just past the co-op card lock. So it's only that short stretch.
Oh, I see.
But yes, the 475,000 would be for that entire portion.
I'm sorry, I thought we were talking Westridge, and
sorry.
we're not. So, okay, Westridge, I see Westridge is down there. But that's the west part. So Westridge is, as well, was not considered a project for this.
Correct. Westridge Road is not on this, just due to the way that the qualifying for the stimulus program works.
Thanks very much.
Are there any other questions relevant to this? I really appreciate how you took into consideration all the conversation and debate and discussion that council's had leading up to this and all the input from administration. And I really am very much appreciative. And once we've moved out of committee of the whole, we'll be able to move this item. I'll ask council to move this item forward. Am I correct in that, legislative services? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to urgent business. Is there any urgent business at this point, administration?
Nothing further, Madam Chair.
And administrative inquiries, legislative services? I just have a comment regarding the Daily Mail that we received from Ms. Bingham recently from the Communities in Bloom. And it was a real credit to our administration that in that communication from Communities in Bloom, which expressed their concerns and considerations of planting and going forward in the community, was exactly what you had presented to council the previous week. And so I was wondering if some communication could be made to Communities in Bloom in that regard, because you had covered it almost exactly to what Mr. Peary had indicated in his letter to council.
Through you, Madam Chair, we will do that. We're just currently looking at the letter right now.
Thank you very much. And the other thing that I would like to just note at this time is to express sympathies on behalf of council to the loss of an elder in Siksika. Day before yesterday, lost Elder Yvonne Blackhorse. And so we offer our condolences to the Siksika Nation and to the Blackhorse family. And that concludes our Committee of the Whole business. I would entertain a motion to come out of Committee of the Whole. Councillor Bauer.
I move to come out of Committee of the Whole.
All in favor? And that is carried. I'd ask at this point in time for consideration of a motion regarding the municipal stimulus grant program grant application. Councillor Bauer.
Your worship, I move that council authorize a grant application be made to the province of Alberta to utilize municipal stimulus program grant funding for capital projects and to include projects identified as priority projects within Schedule A in the grant submission.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bauer. Any questions on the motion? Comments? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. That brings us to in camera. I'd entertain a motion to go in camera at this point. Sorry? Yes, Your Worship. Or sorry.
Ask a question to Mr. Simpson, please.
Yes.
Mr. Simpson, should we be proceeding with some direction on the TD Green Space planting grant?
Yes, I think we need to proceed if we want to get this work done and completed, I mean, by November 30th, and you can't even, there's lots to do after the trees are planted, so I think we need to have some direction here so we can move forward and get the trees planted before it frees up.
Thank you. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, is it possible for Donna or administration to come back next week with a planting plan for the next 3 years, 2 or 3 years that would mitigate the expenses we're spending in 20 compared to what we would normally spend?
To you, Madam Chair. Based on the comments made by Councillors Sobel and Councillor Montgomery, I think we could prepare a report and show you how we could mitigate the cost of this program against our annual tree program over the next 3 years, which I think was kind of the initial conversations that Councillor Montgomery had with the CAO. We'll look at that and we'll have a report on the agenda for next week for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
But then entertain a motion. Is that okay, Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Entertain a motion to go in camera. Councillor Sobel.
I so move, Your Worship.
So call the question. All in favor? Thank you.